readings today give us a powerful example of what love looks like in action. Starting with the gospel, when Jesus, the Son of God, issues a new commandment to love one another as I love you. In other words, Jesus is not just talking about sentimental love. No, Jesus is talking about intentional love, personal love, a greater love that involves laying down one's life for others. And that kind of love we see in the readings from the Acts of the Apostles today, when the church responds to crisis, confusion, disagreement, and tension arising in the parish community of Antioch. Instead of just sending a letter of apostolic decree saying, here's our decision, or so straighten things out, the church also sends a delegation, including Silas, Paul, and Barnabas, to minister to this troubled flock. Because love doesn't just correct at a distance, love draws near. The church didn't just want to be right, they wanted to be with them, to encourage them, to strengthen them, and walk alongside them. The reading tells us that the people were delighted with the letter's exhortation. And that kind of reaction doesn't come from a cold correction. It comes from the personal presence of loved ones. That's exactly how Jesus loves us. He didn't save us from a distance. He didn't send instructions from heaven to say, figure it out. He came in person. He walked with us, spoke to us, and called us friends, and then suffered and gave his life for us. And now he commands us to do the same. Now this command doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have to actually die for someone, but it does mean that we are to live our lives formed by grace in service to others by our time, talent, and treasure, out of the love for God and neighbor, and according to the unique circumstances of our lives. Like when two different people get a phone call from a friend whose car is broken down and they're stuck on the side of the road, one responds, oh no, that's terrible. I'll pray for you to be safe until you figure something out. While the other one responds, oh no, that's terrible. Tell me exactly where you are. I'm on my way. I'm praying that you'll be safe, but let's stay on the phone until I get there. In both cases, prayer was important and necessary, but between the two who received the phone call, which one was living the commandment that Christ gave us to love one another as I love you? Of course, the one who went the extra mile and showed up in person. And he's the same one that the stranded friend remembers and talks about fondly, because that's the person whose love took flesh and served. And if someone loses, and we know that loses a loved one, there's text messages and emails and cards from caring individuals expressing condolences and these are all wonderful, beautiful, and convenient things. But the friend who quietly shows up at the door in person with a covered dish, and after being invited in, just sits with them. No big speech, just being present. The texts and the emails and cards are appreciated, of course, but they're rarely remembered later. But the person who showed up and accompanied them during their grieving is remembered with love for years to come. That's the kind of love Jesus is talking about. Not just kind words, thoughts, and prayers, but presence. Today in our own lives, it's easy to love from a distance. Sending a text instead of calling someone who needs a phone call. Offering advice or sending money instead of spending quality time with someone who needs you. Criticizing or correcting someone instead of patiently walking with them as they use their free will to hopefully make good decisions. But loving one another the way Jesus commands means showing up. Real Christian love sits in a hospital room. It visits a struggling neighbor. It spends time with those who are confused and hurting. Real Christian love doesn't just fix problems, it accompanies people on their journey through them. Today, Jesus calls us his He chose us. He appoints us and sends us out to go and bear fruit. But lasting fruit doesn't grow just from words. It grows from our presence, personal contact, and work. It comes from showing up and being there for others in their time of need, even when it's extremely inconvenient and hard. So today, let's ask ourselves a simple question. Where is God asking me to reach out to a loved one at a distance? And where is God asking me to show up in person and be present with them? Because for most, that's where love becomes real. That's where hearts are strengthened. And that's where Christ is made visible and present when we love one another.